Well, greetings and welcome to episode 134 of Bible 180, 180 episodes between Genesis and Revelation. Today we're looking at the familiar story of Jesus turning water into wine from chapter 2 of the Gospel of John. The beginning of John chapter 2 reads in this way: On the third day. There's always something theological in the Gospel of John. On the third day, what else happened on the third day? Well, Jesus raised from the dead, a number of different things. So on the third day is kind of a signal that something important is about to happen. In fact, this was the first of Jesus' miracles. On the third day, there was a wedding at Cana in Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. Now, on the third day, numbers are important in the Gospel of John. Jesus had three primary disciples, Peter, James, and John. Three is a number of the Holy Trinity. Important things happen in three in the Bible. So right off the bat, this is the story where something is going to be revealed. Notice also that this takes place in chapter 2, right at the beginning week of Jesus' ministry. In chapter 1, he calls his first 6 disciples in chapter 1, and he was about to start his public ministry, but only had 6 disciples that had come to him at that point. So he's ready to go and start saving the world with 6 disciples, and yet he takes time out of his schedule to go to a wedding and a reception afterwards right away. That tells us something important about the priorities of Jesus. He's got so much to do. He's got a good start with half of his disciples. He got a world to save, but he goes to a wedding and then goes to the wedding reception. I mean, didn't he have more important things to do? I mean, I don't know about you, but my life is often way too busy and way too full. I often rush around and worry, try to fit 36 hours into 24 hours. I appreciate getting a good night's sleep, but I don't get as much as I should. I mean, we're all busy. Think of Jesus having a world to save, people to heal, places to visit, lives to change, and he goes to a wedding and the reception afterwards. Maybe one of the lessons that we get from the Gospel of John is to tell us that in order to really experience the full and abundant life that Jesus wants to have us experience to overflowing in our lives, part of what we need to do, all of us, me too, is to slow down and allow ourselves room and space and margin in our lives to experience a true abundance that Jesus wants to give us, the abundance life that only he can really give. Now, the wedding took place at the home of the groom, not the bride, but at the groom. Weddings in Jesus' time were very different from today. Today, the focus is on the bride. The groom usually goes along for the choosing of the flowers and the cake tasting, but really, he's doing it to be polite, because it's not that he has great taste in flowers. I mean, honey, do you like the fuchsia or the pink flowers? And the groom can't even tell the difference. He says, yeah, whatever you like, my dear. And these days, oftentimes the weddings begin with the bride walking down the center aisle, sometimes the groom also, but the bride goes last. Everybody stands up and the weddings begin. Not so in Jesus' time. The focus was on the groom. It'd be like the groom walking down the center aisle and everybody's standing up and saying, oh, don't he look good? Every wedding I've ever done, I've suggested that. Why not have a Jesus wedding? Have the bride stand up front, have the groom come in last, everybody stand up and say, oh, don't he look good? Well, and nobody has ever taken me up on that. But they would go to the groom's house and have the wedding hosted by the groom and his family. It was often an extravagant party, and the groom's parents wanted to make sure everything was done exceptionally well. So going on with the story, when the wine had gone out, Jesus' mother said to him, these are the words she said. She said, they have no wine. And Jesus says to her, woman, what is that concern to you and me? My hour has not yet come. Now, what's interesting is that the mother of Jesus simply says, they have no wine. They have no wine. Any husband knows that a sentence like that is not simply a statement of fact. Any husband knows that when your wife says, honey, we're out of milk, she's just not making an observation that you're out of milk. She's saying, go to the store right now. Don't even get out of your pajamas and go get us some milk. Or when your wife says, honey, the front door is open, she's not making a casual observation about the door being open. She's saying, shut the front door. So the Mary, the mother of Jesus, says, they have no wine. Means, Jesus, what you going to do about this? So Jesus says, woman, what concern is that to you and me? My hour has not yet come. He was not being rude or condescending, but he was using the words that he would one day use on a cross. When he said to Mary, his mother, he said, woman, behold your son, son, behold your mother. Those are the only two times that Jesus refers to his mother as woman. At the wedding at Cana and on the cross. Jesus was saying, my hour has not yet come. The reason is the cross hasn't been here. His hour is on that third day when he's raised from the dead. So even using the word woman points forward to his death and glorification and resurrection that would one day come. It's a way that John theologically tells the story of Jesus, giving us clues toward the cross, but clues that made sense of what Jesus was doing. So the story goes on. There were 6 stone jars there used for the Jewish rites of purification, each holding 20 to 30 gallons. 6 stone jars, 6 disciples that Jesus had called by this time. 6 stone jars used for ceremonial washing, meaning water jugs. They'd put their hands in there and wash before they went to the meal. They'd splash them on their face. Sometimes their hands were greasy from the turkey legs that they were eating and the sweet potato souffle, and they'd go back and wash their hands and their beards. It was common stone jars full of kind of dirty water, which gives the clue that later in the Gospel of John, Jesus would use ordinary things like bread and fish and nets and seeds and barns and a Passover meal with bread and wine to show how God's extraordinary love and grace and hope comes to us through ordinary things. It's the way God works, not always with shiny things, but through ordinary, common things and people and places and things to bring us God's extraordinary love and grace. Not fancy, but common, ordinary people like you and me. Jesus uses that to work a miracle. So the servants filled the brims, note, to overflowing. No room left in the jars, no room for anything else. And when they drew some out, they brought it to the master of the banquet, and the master said to the groom, dude, this is awesome wine. Everybody serves the best wine first and then the cheaper one when people have had their fill. But you've served the best until now. The 6 ordinary stone jars now were filled to the brim with water that was changed into the best wine ever. So, again, 2 things. First, that the stone jars filled to overflowing represent us. The Apostle Paul compares us to earthen vessels or clay pots. The jars were filled to overflowing, representing being filled with the love and joy that comes with knowing Jesus as Savior and Lord. When the servants took the clay jars, they emptied out the old water that people had washed their hands in, put in clean fresh water to the brim, that then was changed into the best wine ever. The clay jars represent us. We whose lives are often filled with old, dirty dishwater of the world, filled with some bitterness, maybe filled with some guilt, sorrow, resentment, some selfish living that needs to be emptied out and be filled with the best water that Jesus has to offer. The clay jars represent us. When we need to be emptied of our old junk that keep us from a relationship with God that's overflowing with love and grace, we need to empty out the old brackish, stale water of our lives and let it be filled with Jesus, the living water. Remember, he says, I am the living water. Second thing we need to remember is that when Jesus said to the servants, fill the jars to the brim to overflowing, make sure there's not room for anything else, and then draw it out and bring it to the master of the banquet, Jesus involved the servants in the miracle because they did what they were supposed to do, and then God did what God is supposed to do. The servants got to participate in the miracle. They were the ones, the servants, who saw the miracle happening. The master of the banquet didn't know how the water was made into wine. All he knows was that this was really some good stuff. The people at the wedding banquet didn't know. All they knew that this is really good wine. The servants saw the miracle happening in front of their eyes because they did what Jesus was asking them to do. And in serving, they saw the miracle that Jesus was doing right in front of their eyes. So think of this. Mary invited the miracle to happen. She showed Jesus a need and asked for a miracle to happen. The servants participated in the miracle and what God was doing just by serving and doing the mundane tasks they were asked to do. The steward and the guests enjoyed the miracle by drinking the good wine. And then, as the story draws to a close, the disciples believed in the miracle worker. In the last verse of the story, Jesus did the first of his signs in Cana at Galilee and revealed his glory, and the disciples believed in him. So, you know, when you're feeling alone, when you're feeling like nobody likes me, everybody hates me, guess I'll go eat worms, before you eat them worms, look at the ordinary, casual, miraculously ways in which God is with you so that you're never alone. Through prayer, God comforts us. Through bread and wine, when you receive communion, God says, this is for you. You are never alone. In worship, God says, I'm going to love you and care for you to the ends of the earth. In the last line of this miracle story, the disciples believed in the presence and the majesty of Jesus just because he took a break from his busy life to experience a wedding feast with them. God, you know, is interested in the little details of your life, not just in the big stuff, but in the little mundane details where he greets us in water, bread, wine, prayer, devotions, listening to these episodes, small ways in which you can experience the large presence of God every day in your life. That's why you just need to make it a great day. Experience God not just in the big stuff, but in the little stuff. In the morning cup of coffee, in a sunrise or sunset, in the call or text of a loved one, in a prayer where you just kind of feel I'm opening my heart to God and God is going to be with me no matter what. Make it a great day. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode, and until then, you take good care. Bye-bye.